Hello, Sports Nation. Welcome back. I'm Rob Kleinen, and today we have a special guest, Joe Devine. He is a artist and photographer. Joe, how you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good, good. You and your family staying healthy during this ordeal?
Healthy. I don't know if sane is not a thing that we're staying. We're ready to get back to normal and whatever that is. And
yes, I think everybody watching would agree.
I think anyone with kids, you're like, if they could just get back to school or
yes,
like,
get out of the house.
Get out of the house and
yes,
and be around others.
I agree. So Joe, you come to our store quite a bit, especially during the signings that we have. You're well known for your drawings, your artist ability. Please tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Well, kind of a long, twisty story. I'll try to sum it up a little bit. Since I was a kid, I was always, drawn to sports and watching the greats like Bo Jackson and George Brett and just being in awe of those guys and fascinated. I would look at the Sports Illustrated magazines and it was like these guys were kind of my heroes in a lot of ways. And also my dad is an artist. He's still around, but he's got some health problems. But just growing up watching him, he was absolutely amazing, and I would always just be blown away by the artwork that he put out. And so I had kind of these two influences growing up. I loved sports. I was always active outside playing baseball and football in the backyard, and then these athletes, and then my dad is an artist. So visually, I was if I wasn't playing the sports, I was outside, doing that. Then when I came inside, I was wanting to draw these pictures. I was hanging baseball cards on the wall and would sit down and just try to draw these different players. And I was pretty terrible, I thought, at that time. And look at my dad's stuff and go, oh my gosh, but it was still fun to do it and try. And so eventually I got into playing baseball, and that was like all I cared about. I felt like that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, was play professional baseball. So I didn't really have much of a plan for my future other than that. And I played through college. And
so you played baseball in college?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually got to play, in high school I played against Albert Pujols. I was in left field at Winnetonka and got to just watch his, hits go over my head. We had the big hill in the outfield, and I would just stand there and he'd hit the ball and I'd just turn. I knew it was gone. And then I went to Maple Woods to play baseball, and he was there, and so I got to, practice against him. I pitched also, I'm left-handed, so got to pitch to him in practice games, and that was pretty cool. And we all knew he was going to be great. We just didn't know how great he was. So that was pretty cool to watch him.
That's awesome.
Go through all that, yeah.
So you liked to draw, growing up. You had inspiration anyways, and through your family.
Yeah.
So did you graduate? You got out of Maple Woods, and did you go into immediately like a studio or something, or did you have a career that you wanted to?
So from there, I was pretty determined that I was like, I don't care about anything else. Baseball is going to be it. I'm just going to work until I get, I want to get drafted. I want to go play professional baseball, but my body had other ideas. I just kept getting injured, and my body was just breaking down. I'm not a big guy as it is, so I don't know if I was, there's a lot of things now I've learned about how to keep yourself in better shape and not, just work out to work out. And
right.
Some things I wish I had known back then, but I ultimately had to make the decision because my arm was killing me. I was getting stress fractures in my leg. I had other pains, things here and there. So I was like, I got to figure something else out because it's just the schedule just would get more grueling as you go on. So ultimately, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? I need to find something to do, and I think digital photography had started becoming a thing at that time. When I was playing at Maple Woods, I remember I got this digital camera. I had wrecked a car, and I got a couple $1,000s out for the insurance money or whatever, and I bought this digital camera that was like a 1.3 megapixel. It took 3.5-inch floppy disk, and it would store like 6 photos on it. And so I would take pictures of the baseball team with it, and they were just, I mean, at the time it was like so cool because it was digital, and but they were just absolutely terrible pictures. But I kind of have an arts background and baseball and visual. Like this is where it kind of started to all come together, I think, because I really enjoyed taking the pictures. And so, still not knowing what I wanted to do, I was finishing my degree at Maple Woods, my associates, and then it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I had a friend getting in nursing school, this accelerated program to be an LPN, and that was a year program, and you become a nurse. I'm like, well, let's try that, because it was a clear path for me. I didn't have a preset plan, so I went to nursing school, finished that, and about a week before I graduated, well, no, let's see. So I'd gotten a digital camera in that time period somewhere and started playing around with that quite a bit more. I think the technology was getting better. That was around 2005. And friends were all kind of saying, hey, you really need to pursue this. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I could try. So I started my business in 2005. Joe Devine Photography is what it was called, and didn't really know where I was going with it. I had friends saying, hey, will you take photographs of my kid or whatever, and then someone was getting married, and I was like, well, I'll try it, and just kind of got addicted to that, fell in love with it. But I also had graduated, and it was like, now it's time to find a job. So for the first 6 months after I graduated nursing school, I couldn't really find a job. Everyone was saying they wanted experience, and I didn't really get a chance. So in that 6 month period, I started a photography business and just kept working at that and building that up. And after about 6 months, I found a nursing job. So I was kind of doing both for about 4 years, really pouring into the business and not sleeping. And about 2010, the photography business had grown to where it was pretty much a full-time thing. We were doing tons of weddings, senior photos, and children, all that stuff. And it was just, and my son was born in 2009, so I had a newborn, I had a photography business, and I had my nursing job that I was working at full-time. I was the manager of this IV department, and I was just stressed to the max. And I'm like, and photography, I knew that photography was where I wanted to be. I wanted to do that full-time and just make that work. So my wife and I, in 2010, decided, hey, let's make this work. Let's quit our jobs and put all of our effort into this. I think we can do this. So we kind of made that leap of faith, and since 2010 we've been doing that full time. So that kind of brings, from 2010 to 2017, we photographed 30 weddings a year on up to close to 40 weddings a year. And while we loved it, it was like super stressful and took away a lot of our weekends.
So when you say, like, you did 30 to 40 weddings, I mean, to me that's like, once a weekend, basically, right? Yeah. Now, is there, when you shoot a wedding, I mean, is there hours involved after the shoot where you have to prepare these photos? Yeah. Or is it like going to Walgreens and having them do everything?
No. So I'm kind of a perfectionist, and that kind of leads me into my art stuff. But and having a kid too, especially a young child at home, it's hard. Wedding photography, you have to have your couple. We have a home studio, so our clients would come over. They would meet with us in the evenings typically, because that's when they're off work. So our son, we have to take him to a parent's babysitter somewhere to find that. We basically are interviewed by these clients, because do they want us to photograph their wedding? And so you have a lot of your evenings taken away doing interviews, trying to get your weddings. And so there's that. Then you have an engagement session that you schedule usually in an evening, because that's when the light's best outside. You got the sunset. So there's more evenings that are kind of taken away from the family. Then there's the day of the wedding, which early on we'd photograph 12 hours of that day. Then we started they had to pay more if they wanted that much of our time, because our bodies, it would kill us. But your day starts pretty early, so we would start preparing, getting everything ready, and we had to get our son and dogs and all that to Grandma's house, and so we'd leave at 10 o'clock in the morning and get home at like 12:30, 1 o'clock at night. So you're just wiped out after that.
And you go
day.
to certain locations to do these shoots.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's an all-day event where we don't. It's hard to get a break. We're hardly even getting a chance to sit down and eat because the way we photograph is it's just kind of a story of the whole day. We start with them getting ready and just try to be everywhere and create all these images and moments, and you don't want to miss anything really. So it's very like mentally draining. You're exhausted.
Right.
And then with the weddings, there's so much unpredictability. The weather, there's a lot of people that, if things aren't running smooth, you kind of have this plan, and then it feels like you're just doing, what's the word? Or like, trying to control this chaos.
Right.
And you can't always do it. And so you want to get the best product for your client, best images, but it's not always in your control. And so you take on this stress, and that stress over time, kind of my wife and I were like, oh, this is so hard, but
so when so you and your wife are doing this together,
right? Yeah.
So when did your wife come into the picture? I know she came into the picture if you have a son. So
yeah. So 2005, when I was finishing nursing school, I think it was like the last week. I had a friend getting married, and I went to the rehearsal dinner. I kind of just watched how this wedding was going to go, and I was going to photograph her for free just to try out a wedding. And my friend was the groom, her friend was the bride. She was a bridesmaid, and but we actually knew each other. She grew up next door to my best friend, and we would always be outside at, like we were in middle school when they lived next to each other, and there's about 3.5, 4 years difference between Laura and I. And so at that age, I was like, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. She was early elementary, or that put her in elementary school. And so it wasn't like, we didn't really pay attention. I just knew who she was. But then years later, we connected there, and kind of, it went from there with her. So early on, it wasn't her plan to get into photography or do anything like that, but she always she wanted to be a makeup artist, she had thought. And so she kind of got more and more involved over time, and then wanted to try the makeup stuff, and we met some different people, and she got into that, and she was really, really good at it. So it just has, blossom worked out really well for our business, and she's got a great eye for photography too, and so she takes the camera, and
Going back to your weddings, you said you did 30 to 40 a year, and took a lot out of you. So how did you transition? Like I asked you before, where'd you find the time to do the paintings? But how did you get into that? Where did it start to transition?
Yeah, so in trying to keep up with we were kind of overwhelmed by all the weddings and being parents and trying to, get enough quality time with our son, in the evenings. And especially as he was getting older, there was more and more events happening, and we wanted to, be there with him. So it was weddings for a while. My wife and I were really getting burnt out, and I think we both kind of came to the realization we need to really cut these back, so we can have that quality time back. And I think we started that process around 2014, 2015, when we were kind of like, I wonder if there's something else we could do to kind of do less weddings and work in other places, so to free up some time there. So around that time, I had met another artist, Chris Simbauer, and he was kind of a big influence on me, and I saw what he was doing, and having that background of the art with my dad and then sports and all that love, and then being a very visual person, I knew I wanted to do stuff like this at some point. I just didn't kind of know how I could make that happen, or kind of just the ins and outs of all that. And he kind of talked to me about some of that, and so my wife and I, we phased out our weddings, and I started to have a little bit more time, and I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I think, if I remember right, my first one was a Whit Merrifield signing here at Mo Sports. And well, I had bought some of Chris's pieces and was just like, oh my gosh, he does digital art, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want to be able to produce stuff like this and create moments like this in the way I feel like I want to see them. So weddings were reduced. I had a little bit more time to try this, and my first couple were like, I look at those now and go, oh my gosh, it's terrible. But with photography and using Photoshop, I kind of had some skills that I had built up over the years. When I was younger and I would draw and do these things, I didn't really have a whole lot of knowledge, and I would just try to do it the way I knew how, and wonder, like, why doesn't it look as good as I want it to be, and like my dad's or whatever. And so fast forward all these years later, and learning over these years of using Photoshop and learning more about art, I kind of had this knowledge of that stuff. So I think the learning curve was a lot faster for me. And then you've got YouTube you can learn anything on there with techniques, and it just kind of all started clicking really fast. And so yeah, my first pieces were digital art, where in Photoshop, people think you're just dragging photos into Photoshop and like just compositing them together, and then there you go. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I'm doing. That there are artists that do that, and I don't know. I have a strong feeling about that, but it's 80 hours of layering and brushing and really refining that process. And so in doing that, I started going, oh man, I really love doing this. Around 2017, we did our last wedding. We had one wedding that year, and that was like, oh, we have to shoot this wedding. And so we'd taken a big portion of our income and lost it, and we didn't have enough portraits to cover kind of our bills at that time. And my wife's like, well, I can do more makeup stuff outside. I can still do makeup for weddings, and we've got our portraits, and then you can try this art thing. And so really started making a push for that, and it was very, very slow for a couple of years until I started building up my name more. And I think now more and more people are finding my work, and that's really helped a lot. And now from the digital stuff, it made me kind of crave I'm learning art backwards. I feel like most people either they start drawing and then they do paintings, and digital I think usually comes last. A lot of artists go to digital. There's a lot of things about it where you don't have to buy supplies. It's not messy.
Right.
There's just so much you can do with it, so much creativity. But I'm like, I still enjoy the actual paintings and stuff like that, and having the physical original product is really cool. So I've gone backwards and learned how to work with all the paints and the different mediums, and it's really exciting and fun to do, challenging, and I get bored really easy, so I'm always tinkering and want to do new things.
So you have the studio, and it's here in Kansas City,
right?
But then, like, behind us, we see these just awesome paintings, and so you're describing how little time you have.
Yeah.
So where do you find time to do this great artwork?
Well, yeah, really late, a lot of late nights. My family's sleeping, and I'm just pulling all-nighters sometimes. And you guys announce the players coming in to sign, and I'm like, okay, I have a week to do this, so I'm gonna be staying up for 4 or 5 nights solid and just trying to bust this out. And sometimes if I have a lot of these pieces, there's 50 to 80 hours in, so I have to look at it realistically, like, what can I get done? So sometimes if there's not as much time, it's a little bit more simple on my design and all that. But I don't know if I kind of all over my explanation, but yeah, it's just I'll find the time if I feel like I'm really excited about the player, and there's enough. I get a lot of clients now who are saying, hey, are you going to do a piece for this? Are you going to do a piece for that? And that kind of motivates me a little bit. I'm like, okay, there's...
So are these pieces that that you think about and you put it on, you draw, you put it out on the paper, or you take a Sports Center, or not Sports Center, but Sports Illustrated photo, and you copy it and paint it? I mean, how do you do it? Are all these fresh, or are they images from another source that you wanted to paint? Or
it's all kind of different. Starting this, I wanted to create a different something you haven't really seen, something different, something you can't just get from a photo. And it's funny, a lot of times people, especially if I do it digitally, and we can get into that, people are like, they think it's a photo, but it's kind of like they can't tell what it is. They're like, wait, they get closer and they can tell it's not a photo, and so I think that messes with people a little bit. But the starting process, trying to come up with the idea, is probably the hardest a lot of times. I'll spend 5-10 hours going through just visual, pieces, watching video, trying to find. If I think of a moment that I want to do, I'm trying to find all kinds of different angles and just visualize how I want to see this moment. What's the best angle? What's going to make this? What's going to draw people to it? And once I finally have my idea, then the process kind of goes along a lot faster. There are times though when I'll get started, I'm like, I just got to start putting stuff down, sketching out ideas, and I'll waste a lot of time being like, no, that's not working, that's not working, and then sometimes it's like I just have to get the player kind of painted out in the pose, and then once it's there, then I kind of see the background stuff kind of coming together, and it's just a lot of, not trial and error, but just getting something down and working until it kind of happens.
Yeah. Well, this piece behind you, it looks like it's the Wasps.
The Wasps, yep.
Is that the play in the Super Bowl?
It is, yep.
So, I mean, to get the players in their... I mean, it basically looks exactly like if you stopped the Super Bowl, paused it.
Yeah.
At that particular moment, when he's throwing the ball, when Tyreek's about to catch. I mean, that looks almost identical. Like, and just the detail of this entire piece, and then you have the Lombardi Trophy on this side. It's incredible. I mean,
thank you. I appreciate it.
The talent that. I mean, that's why you're on this video.
Well, there's a lot of hours in that, and actually that one came together. I don't know, some pieces just like I knew I wanted to do the pose of him, like he's always flexing and doing that scream, and it's kind of become one of his things. But I've seen it done a lot, and I didn't want just that. I wanted to do a little bit different, and then I'm like, I knew I wanted to do something with the Wasp play. That was, if you watch the video of how that all came about, and it gave me chills when they talked about that and how...
Like, he actually called the play.
Yeah.
When he went over to, they called the timeout, and he went over and talked to the coach.
Right. And how it came out from the, when they were reviewing the call with the catch with Tyreek.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was.
That gave them the moment to go over there and basically say, hey, I want to run Wasp, and I don't care about, and they're like, how many yards or whatever. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just let's do it. And anyways, yeah, it was just such a huge moment for the Chiefs in history, and that play changed everything. So I was like, I have to paint it. And then it's just a matter of going, okay, I love the idea of him flexing and celebrating, and how do we get this moment into this painting and get all the elements of that I want. And sometimes you want to cram as much into it as possible, but that's just visually, it doesn't make for a good piece. So
I got a couple questions. So
Yeah.
let's do the first one. So let's say someone goes to your studio and they look and they say, man, that's an awesome picture.
Yeah.
Could they just buy it? Or do you they order it and you paint another one? What's the process? If I came into your store and said, looked through your studio and said, man, I like this, I want it.
Yeah, so there is a lot of confusion about that sometimes, I think. So when I do a painting, whether it's digital or an original or something like that, then I can make prints of it. And I typically, at home, I can print on paper to a certain size, but anything above that I have to order. So my paintings, I'll typically limit them to a certain number, like this is out of 200. And so out of that 200, it can be maybe 100 of those are paper prints, 100 of those are 50 are canvas prints, 30 are metal prints, and then I'll do banners. Just that 200 can be whatever type of print.
And you're only, that was at 200.
But at 200 is the max that we'll print. So I can't keep all those on hand at a time. So when a customer wants a piece, if it's not paper print that I have at home, then I'll order it. Typically, a lab takes about a week to get it printed and then ship it out to the customer or pick it up or however they want to do it. This whole virus situation has caused some massive delays in getting prints quick. Yeah, I just got some metal prints in from this that I've been waiting on for about a month, I feel like, and it was nice to finally get those in. All the labs were closed down except for like 2 of them for a while.
Really?
Yeah. So
now, and I see. So we have. As a matter of fact, I have this one that you did.
I thought you did. Yeah.
In the metal print, signed by Perez, inscribed MVP. So.
I was here when he did that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do baseball, you do football, any other sports? I know you do soccer.
I've done a few soccer ones.
Stuff.
Yeah. I actually did one of Magic Johnson for Karen, her son. So I've done other pieces. Yeah, I've done. I think that's my only basketball one so far. That was a commission piece. So I kind of my heart is it kind of goes Royals first, and then Chiefs, and then from there it's kind of what the customers, clients are asking for. But it's I enjoy whatever I do. I want to create something that's really unique and put my heart into, and that's really going to be something special that I'm proud of.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that's why I wanted to interview you, on our channel. I think your talent, you've got unique abilities.
Appreciate that.
You're local, and I think I'm all for shop local, supporting our local businesses and small owners. You and your wife. Do you have a website?
I do. It's people can go to Joe Devine, www.joedevineartist.com.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you taking the time to visit our store and sitting down doing this little interview. I really want to push you out there. Like I said, I'm blown away by your talent. For those watching, please look in the description, visit his store, give him some support, some love. Visit joedevineartist.com, and Devine Studio is the photography?
DevineStudios.com is our photography site if you want to check that out.
Yeah, so, and email him. The email will be in the description too if you want to inquire about some pieces. Well, I appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody out there, I want to say stay encouraged, stay blessed. Please click like on our video, hit subscribe. What we're doing, we're using this channel to promote businesses, to promote our product, our store. So I appreciate every single one of you taking time to watch and participate. Stay healthy and be a miracle in someone's life today. Thank you.